Hello. Who's out there in social media land this early in the morning? I'm just checking to make sure that I see. Look, I popped up live on my own little screen here on my phone. How cool is that? I'm special. Oh, I just hit my own desk too. Good morning. Buenos dias. Ohayo gozaimasu. Guten Morgen. Or as my dear friend Mike Hanzik, God rest his soul, would say when I was in England for 3 years. Morning, Ginge. Like, I lived for that, really. I really did. He called me Ginge because that's what they call redheads over in England, gingers. And I actually enjoyed it. It didn't bother me. And I loved my 3 years in England. As you could tell, I'm grateful for the many places that I was able to visit during my 20 years in the military. And you can also tell that I showered because I have wet hair and I'm quite excited for that. So yes, the busted pipe that happened yesterday was fixed last night. I'm also grateful for the people that come into my life that really show up in my life. Elizabeth Johnson, my dear friend, if you're out there listening to this in any way, shape, or form, even if you're listening to it later, thank you for hosting the author chat last night over on the Authors on the Porch group because look, I had dogs on my lap, another dog frightened to death because of the people in the house, sitting over on a stool next to me. It was chaotic. It was chaotic in the house. So I could not focus on the show, even though I was commenting like a mad woman because I was having a good time. Like, you hosted an amazing show. Like, you're gonna take over my job. So thank you so much. Like, it was really good to sit back and watch the show and just be there in the moment and see people just collaborating, talking, and they didn't even know each other, right? Like, Tyrell and Elizabeth knew each other. Danny was new to being on our show before. We had just met Danny Hoots, author Danny Hoots. She does sci-fi, uh, romance, fantasy. She does a couple different genres. Then you have Richard Kaufman, the comeback coach, who I think everybody knows and loves, and Joanne Angelberry Cologne. And Joanne and Richard kind of run in the same circles virtually. So it was great to see everybody. And Richard invited everybody on his show, which is a top ranked podcast. He has thousands of downloads, like hundreds of thousands of downloads. I think he even got in the million the one time. If not, he's still there. So it's like, I just love it when people just come together and collaborate on all those levels. So it was great. And before all that happened, I actually got a phone call from a friend. We talk every once in a great while, but I've known her since the 90s, y'all, like the 90s. I don't have a lot of friends that I know since the 90s that I still communicate with. And it was great. And I wouldn't have any of this if it had not been for her because our lives are so intertwined. It's absolutely scary. Our kids, we were pregnant with our youngest at the same time. Our kids were born a couple of weeks apart. Our husbands were in leadership school together. Me and her husband was in the same squadron together. We were together on 9/11. Um, and then one of the things that made me reach out to her personally, I mean, we have each other on Facebook. We don't talk a whole lot because our lives are inherently different now, but we're still like when we get on the phone, it's like we didn't skip a beat. But I saw a memory that she shared about her wedding anniversary is only a couple days after my Air Force anniversary. So 25 years. And I was talking about 25 years of my military anniversary. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to reach out to her because our lives are so intertwined. And unfortunately, she lost her husband in Afghanistan years ago. And one of the crazy things is, I lost my grandma. My grandma passed away, and a month later was when her husband passed away and was killed in Afghanistan. So it's like our lives just keep intertwining. And then, years after she lost her husband, she got into another relationship, and it was like we just keep there's it's almost spooky, but it's beautiful because we can share things together that nobody else really can share because they don't have the exact same experiences. And she started a podcast, and I ferociously followed her podcast because it was her and two of her good friends, and it was beautiful, and it was so much about growth. And I got so involved that I was doing motivational stuff for them. And I learned how to podcast, like what platform and things like that. And that's how I was like, oh, okay, well, I know how to do this. And when they slowed down doing their stuff and eventually started doing some other stuff, I learned how to get on the platform. So a big shout out to Lashana because she's my sister from another mister. Like seriously, we don't realize the people that are in our lives until you sit back and think of how your lives intertwine so much. When I look at our lives. And over the years since the 90s, how many things are just right next to each other and how we can sit and talk. Like she called me because I texted her because it was early morning, like 6 before I came on yesterday. And I told her, I missed you. I miss you. I hope you're doing well. And then she called me later in the day and we were just talking like we had been talking the day before, but we hadn't talked in a couple of years actually. And it was amazing how some people you never skip a beat with. So think about those people today. Sit and think about the people that you may not have talked to for a while, but you feel this undying connection with. And me, myself, you guys know I struggle from social anxiety. And I I used to not be this way. I used to not have all of this, but through the things that I've been through, it's just really uncomfortable to be around people because of different reasons. But she was one of the people that I had in my life before I ever went through all of that. So I'm not going to get upset. So it's like that connection to my former self, right? So just reach out. You never know who you have in your corner. And there's so many phenomenal people out there. And then during the show, we had Brian Gibson pop on from Project Die Hard 22 and his amazing mission of FOB Rush and wanting to get that home up. He was gifted uh, acres and he's wanting to build a home for homeless veterans. And it's just these wonderful things that went on yesterday in light of a pipe busting in my house. So you see how there's always going to be these polarizing things that happen in your life. And I could have focused on the pipe, but I said, you know what? It's going to be fixed. Let me just have a great day. And all these wonderful things were happening. And because I literally just paid attention to all these wonderful things and ignored this big gaping hole. And I sent the picture to a couple people and they were like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, girl, it's fine. It's going to be taken care of. And I focused on that. I was able to allow into my life all this joy and all this happiness. And that's what you're blocking out. When something bad happens and you go up in roars and you literally just and your face tightens up, right? And you end up with a headache and you just can't stop thinking and focusing. When you're focusing and thinking and putting your energy on that negative, it's attracting that negative. You're attracting it back to yourself. And that's what you're not understanding. So, because I didn't attract it back to myself, I was allowing the things that were meant to come my way back to me. So, that's all I wanted to tell you guys today. I I loved it and I'm grateful for all the people that I've been able to come in contact with in my life because they've left a lasting impression. Even the morning Ginge from Mike Hanzik, when I was over in England from 2006 to 2009. And I want to say a couple months after I got to New Mexico in 2009, my supervisor there, who actually was in England with me, he went to New Mexico before me. He came into my office and told me that Mike had passed away from a massive heart attack, which was really hard on both of us. I had to go home that day because when we were in England, we were literally a family. Like there was a flood there, and I opened up my house and fed everybody. Like that's how close we were in England. And I still consider every single one of the people that I served with in England, the civilians were our family. You know, the local nationals were our family, and they still are. And if they needed me, I would be there today, 100%, just like I would anybody here that is my blood family. So people come into your life and they make an impact, and you should let them know that because sometimes you don't get to. But it's Thursday. Is it Thursday, y'all, or is it Wednesday? You guys know I never know what day it is. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. For some people, it's Thursday, but don't drink too much. Like, partake, but don't get too crazy. For me, I am actually going over one of the books in my Roscoe and Charlie series. You guys know that was my signature series. It's the one that made me an author, and it's about my cute little dogs that traveled the world and had adventures. So I am actually going over that book. I was going over that book yesterday. I'm doing some formatting on another book and working on some other stuff. And I need to get a hold of Brian because I have an idea that I want to run by him. And then, gonna do our thing. Try to, I'm gonna have a meeting with a great friend tonight that we're gonna do some amazing stuff. I hope you guys have a great day. And I hope you know that you matter. You matter more than you ever realized that you matter. And you just have to keep telling yourself, you got to look in the mirror and you got to say, I matter. And if you got to put the F bomb in there, put the F bomb in there to make yourself believe it. I fucking matter. Yell at yourself until you believe it. Bye, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you on the flip side.